Hello and welcome to A VO's Journey. My name is Anthony Pica, and this show is all about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all of the crazy things that I seem to step on. This is episode 160. Thank you all so much for listening to this podcast for... some of you have been listening for like almost 2 years now, so I really appreciate it, and thank you for your support. I want to talk to you tonight about something that I think is, I see it happening more and more recently, but it could be that I just have more and more people joining the Facebook group, and I'm paying attention to more people because I'm having access to more voice actors. But I'm seeing a lot of confusion about what you need to get started, what you need to be successful in this business, and what people are saying in different places and so forth and so forth. So tonight, we're going to do a little flashback. I'm going to talk to you about where I started and how that applies to where I am today. Because if you were to look at what I have today, it is nowhere near what I started with. And, the advice that I give people today, okay, I always remember where I started. So we're going to talk about where, what people are saying, what I hear people saying about people telling them how they need to get started, what equipment they need to get, what they need to buy, or they just can't do it. And hopefully we're going to put some questions to rest. All right, let's do it.
This is VO's Journey. With your host, the incomparable Anthony Pica.
Okay, so this whole podcast tonight is kind of like, it's in response to a bunch of questions that I've been seeing in my group recently from different voice actors who are new or getting up and started and up and going, and they're just confused about the things that they need. And when they go out to look for information, they find such a variety of it. And, we all know that, right? And we all know that where you go to search for information really can determine a lot also about your success in the long run and what type of path you're going to take. But in this particular situation, I've been seeing a lot of questions recently about there's certain people talking about what you should and should not use, different websites telling you about what type of blankets or not to use blankets, or USB mics and not to use USB mics, and all these different things that you hear over and over again. And, you don't know which way is up, which way is down, what should you do? You have a feeling about what you want to do, but then someone comes around and says, nope, you can't do that. So my hope is what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little flashback about how I started and where I am today. So we're going to kind of do a flashback. I'm going to talk about where I am today, and then I'm going to give you my opinions because you're listening to my podcast, so you're probably interested in my opinions, hopefully. So anyways, flashback to 2017, and it was about March or April 2017, and I was teaching. And listen, I had a good teaching job. It was neat, and it was actually a kind of a dream job, and from a teaching standpoint as an actor or drama person, because I was at a fine arts magnet school. So everybody that was there had to want to be there. They had to have a certain GPA. So, we had really top-notch students. This was high school, so we got to push the envelope on shows that we did. And we got to try. It was in all fairness, a good job. Okay. But, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with what was, what my future, you know what I mean? I just wasn't happy. I was missing something, and I was missing that opportunity to spread my wings and perform and grow a business. So anyways, move forward to me, watching a couple YouTube videos, getting excited about the opportunity of possibly making money from home acting, because I had a family And, I didn't want to travel around as actors because, you do kind of need to travel around depending on where you live. If you don't live in New York or LA or Chicago, you know what I mean? You kind of need to be able to go where work is. So anyways, I knew nothing about voice acting. I didn't know anything about equipment. I didn't know how to get, I didn't know. I mean, what I know now compared to what I know then is just staggering. No idea. Now, I had been in the acting world for a long time, but, there's the idea that, an actor would also do voice acting was foreign. And even now, it's still foreign, but it's not as foreign because, we're all at home and they've started publicizing a lot more, like Pixar movies behind the scenes where you see famous actors, famous, television actors doing voiceovers, you know what I mean? And making a lot of money from it. So anyways, I saw a video about a guy who was making a booth basically out of PVC pipe and packing blankets. So now, mind you, I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't really know how to start. And at the time, my wife and being fair to her, I had gone down the rabbit hole a bunch of different times with a bunch of different business ideas. I was always searching for something. So I had no clarity at that time about what I was going to do. I just knew I wasn't happy. So I was trying all sorts of things. So, in all fairness to her, she was like, listen, you're not going to go out and buy something. All right. And I was like, listen, there's this $40 microphone. I'm just going to buy a $40 microphone from Best Buy. Okay. It's only $40. And, she was like, well, all right. And I said, but listen, I've got 45 days to take it back if this doesn't work out. And she's like, all right, well, you better take it back. Okay. And at the time I had a $200 gift card from my mom for my birthday, right? Cause it was April, birthday's in April, and it was for, Lowe's. So basically, I'll never forget this. I saw his video, so I measured out my space because now mind you, in my previous home, not where I live now, but when my previous home where I started my business, I didn't have any walk-in closets. I didn't have a lot of closet space at all, so I couldn't actually build anything in a closet, and there was only 2 bedrooms, so my wife and I were in one bedroom and our 2 children were in the other bedroom. And it was a small house, and it wasn't upstairs and downstairs, but there was 2 bedrooms upstairs and there was literally 3 rooms downstairs. There was the living space, the kitchen, and then an office space. And they were all very connected. They were divided by walls, but they were still connected like through multiple doors. So no space had less than 2 doors adjoining it. So anyways, I decided the only place at the time our computer was in our office space, and I figured that's where I'm going to have to set up my booth to record. Now, mind you, I'd never recorded anything. I didn't even know how you're supposed to stand or sit, or I didn't know anything, right? So anyways, I saw a video about this guy just making a PVC pipe fort. Okay. And I was like, okay, I could do that. So I measured everything out. I literally took this stuff to where I worked, my school, and my students, right? Cause I was doing technical theater as well. They actually helped me put it together. I mean, I had the plans and we put it together. I got clamps and, we tested it out in my classroom. And I'm telling you this, I'm laughing because I actually told them, which was true, but originally my idea was, listen, if this doesn't work, I'm going to also use this to record actually voiceovers for the drama program that I was in. And I did actually really mean that, but it never came to fruition because I bought some other equipment that actually ended up being more portable that I could use. And I did use that to record some things for the school. But anyways, needless to say, they helped me build it. They helped me put it together. I took it home and it basically enclosed. I called it my hobo fort. It was an enclosure around my desk that had my computer on it. I had an iMac at the time. And so I knew that I needed a mic, so I went to Best Buy. Like I said, I got the $40 microphone, which was a Snowball from Blue, and it was this roll, this circle. I mean, this mic that was literally looked like a big ball, and it was black, and it did attach to a stand. So I borrowed a stand from the school, and it was a USB mic. Now it had a couple settings on it. I didn't even know what they were. Like, it had some different frequencies on it. I think it had a high and a low frequency, but I think it also had some different polar patterns on it. But at the time, I had no idea what it was, and I didn't know anything about pop filters or the importance of them. So I had this booth set up. I was sitting in my chair, and I had this ball of a mic on a stand that I borrowed, and I didn't know anywhere else to get work at the time except for ACX, because I had seen a video on because I was looking to do audiobooks, right? Because I loved listening to audiobooks, and I loved listening to self-help audiobooks, building who you are and building businesses and things like that. I just always enjoyed that. So I was like, well, I'll start there. And, ACX had, Amazon had ACX, and I saw some videos on it. I was like, okay, this is great. And my whole plan was to build out an entire business, getting residual income, because I love the idea of residual income, month after month income, and I could do that through royalty share, the royalty share program. So I dove right in. I started auditioning in my hobo fort every night. I literally had to put it up and take it down every night. Now, mind you, these were packing blankets I bought from Lowe's with plastic, those plastic clamps, and the PVC pipes that I had to put up and take down every single night. And I ended up getting more pillows and stuffing them in the corners. Now, mind you, the packing blanket or the hobo fort, it's not soundproof. It just helps deaden, any reverb, right? But it doesn't, you can still, any noise comes right through it. So, I was right next to a refrigerator, which was in the kitchen, and literally this thing would be like the whole night, and it was, oh my gosh, a couple of times I literally unplugged the refrigerator and forgot to plug it back in, and so my wife would come in the morning and she'd open the fridge and it would be dark in there, when it's not plugged in, and she's like, "What in the world?" So that quickly stopped. I stopped unplugging the refrigerator. So I was constantly trying to edit out extra sound and noise. So all of my stuff, I feel like in the beginning, was so overprocessed because of my space. But anyways, the point is, and it was overprocessed because of the space, because of the noise level. Okay. But the reality is that I used that packing blanket, that hobo fort. Okay. And I used that hobo fort for almost 2 years to grow my business to a point where, I could afford a whisper room. I could afford the top of the line equipment. Okay, from that. Now, I did not keep the Snowball microphone. I did return it, but I returned it. I got my mom. God bless my mom. I got my mom at the time to spring for the anniversary package for the Rode NT1 1A microphone, and it has the pop filter and everything. Now, before that, I realized at some point, though, the funny story is, I know some people have heard me say, but I realized at some point when I had the Snowball mic that I needed a pop filter. So I had no idea. But my wife was like, I saw another video or something of someone making it out of pantyhose. So I was like, oh my gosh, so I'll try this. And so I got a coat hanger, not, a metal coat hanger from upstairs in our bedroom. And then my wife gave me some old pantyhose that she wasn't using anymore. And I literally fashioned a pop filter out of pantyhose that I wrapped the metal part. I wrapped around the microphone stand, and I pulled it out. And I thought I was hot stuff, man. I thought I had arrived. I had a pop filter. I had a microphone set up. I had my hobo fort. Man, I was a voice artist. It was wonder. I look back and I think of all the stuff I have now, and the tens of thousands of dollars of equipment I own now, and the 6-figure business I have now, and everything that I do. I tell you, I look back at that time and I think, man, that was something special, because, this is something special. I love my business now and I love where I am. But, at that time, it was pure discovery, and there was waters were so uncharted, and getting a voiceover job was like, is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Anyways, I digress. But the point is that I used that hobo fort, okay, for a long time to grow my business. So I want to put one thing to bed here as we move forward. I believe you can run an entire voiceover business. I did through a packing blanket hobo fort, whether it's in a closet, whether it's like I did, and I literally built it had a top, it had sides, it even had a little, like the way I put the blankets on, I just literally pulled up one side, went in and pulled it back down. I did end up getting pillows and more blankets to put around the corners to deaden, the space with a low rumble. But I did that. And then later on, I found out that, I did need more. So I would get more packing blankets. I did end up getting a couple pair, so I had double packing blankets plus around the edges. But the point here is that I did it. I had pillows. I had packing blankets. And it turned out to be one of the best. When I was done with that thing, it turned out to be one of the best spaces, because it deadened so much sound that it was really amazing. And in my studio now where I did have the packing blanket. I did have my hobo fort in my studio where it is now. Of course, it's all gone now because I have my whisper room and I have my editing station and all that stuff. But at the time, I did start in my new house too with the hobo fort. And it really worked well. Now, I did start to upgrade equipment as we went around. So I had that microphone, which is about $200 or some dollars, right? Then I upgraded to, I sprung for about 6 to 8 months in. I sprung for the Sennheiser 416, which was $1,000 mic. I didn't tell my wife. I totally just bought it. And fortunately, I didn't tell her at all. And she didn't know. But I was using, at that time, I was using the PreSonus audio box, which was a $99 interface. And I was using Adobe Audition because I was already paying for Adobe Audition through the school district, because I was using Adobe Audition, not through the school district, but I was using it as a teacher, to make things and stuff. I just got the subscription because it seemed to make sense of all the different creative things I was doing at school. And then I didn't realize at the time that it actually had a DAW, right? I didn't know it was Adobe Audition. And so that worked out actually wonderful. And I had to learn that because I'd never used Adobe Audition before. So all these things were learning things. But the reality is I started with equipment and I got work. I got work with a $40 microphone. I got work with a hobo fort. But I do want to, and so now I hope I've laid that to rest, that you don't need to start with the most amazing equipment and the most amazing expensive insulation and all this kind of stuff. However, I would like to point out that as you go along, you will realize that you will need to reinvest in your business to get better equipment in order to continuously grow to compete on higher levels. Okay? See, no one talks about this, and I've started doing something. I've got something really exciting coming out. I can't tell you what it is yet because it's not done, but I've been consulting a lot of people, people who are in charge of voiceover sites and CEOs of different voiceover companies and things like that, online companies. And I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I'm really excited about something I'm going to be coming out with that I think is going to help the entire voiceover industry. But it's taken me a long time because it's a lot of work. But the point is that I want to talk about, no one talks a lot about the variation of the new voice actor coming into the industry, right? As opposed to the voice actor who's been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years. And also no one talks about the difference between the access that someone like you or me has, as opposed to someone who lives in Los Angeles or is part of SAG-AFTRA, right? So when you look at the discrepancy there between when you were starting out and what you could charge, right? And what you can expect to get work as opposed to someone like me who's been doing this for a few years and done thousands of voiceovers, or someone who's been doing this for 20 or 30 years and has done hundreds of thousands of voiceovers, right? You can't comparing those people is silly. Yet the industry we're in constantly tries to make that comparison. Does that make sense? And they're trying. So when you read like rate guides and you read all this stuff, you'll notice that there's always, there's never a place where you can go, even as a freelancer, that actually talks about that. They only talk about what the ideal situation is in our country. By the way, in our country too. And let's be square, I do about 60 to 70% of my business overseas. So, most of it doesn't even address the fact that we're dealing with a lot of clients not in the USA. So SAG-AFTRA is only in the USA. So what about the rest of the world? There are unions all over the world, that's true, but there are a lot of places that don't have them, and we work in these places. So the point of all this I'm trying to make is that I want you to know there is not one path to glory. There's many of them. Okay? And in the end, our job as business owners is to solve a problem. And if the problem is, listen, I want to get started, but I don't have a lot of money, that's a problem to solve. You don't need a lot of money to get started. But on the flip side, you also need to understand that you're going to have to grind it out at a certain level, doing a certain types of jobs until you work your way up. You get better gear, you get better at better processing, you get better at your DAW, you become a better voice actor, your reads are better, you start to get coaching, you start to work through all these things. Okay, yes, you will make more money and you will get better, but no one starts off like that. Okay, and if they tell you that, that's a lie. That's why it's not a good idea, I personally think, to go out and spend tons and tons of money before you even know what you're doing. Now, there is something to be said that you say, okay, well, Anthony, but I want to invest $10,000, okay, because this is a small business I want to invest $10,000. I think I can do this. You know what? That's great. If you have that money to invest, then absolutely, there is a great path for you to build out a space, get a voiceover coach, use that money, invest it wisely in your business. That's great. But most of us don't start this business like this. In actuality, most of us start a voiceover business because we don't have a lot of money. But here's the thing, I think this is a very lucrative business, but you need to understand too that just like any other business, you have to invest in it for it to grow. You can't create, you can't expect everything overnight. So the point I'm trying to make though is that fast forward to now for me, I don't use a packing blanket. I don't use a Hobo Ford anymore. You know what I mean? I don't, I don't have a $99 interface anymore. All of my equipment and everything I use is quite substantially more expensive than that now. And because of that as well, all right, I've gotten better as a voice actor and I do a lot more work and I make a lot more money. But I look back at my journey over the last 3 years and I think to myself, I would never have been here right now speaking to you if I had not done those things I did then. That doesn't mean you have to do that, but that also doesn't mean that you have to not do that. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean that you have to follow the path I did, but it doesn't mean that you should let someone tell you that that's wrong, because I am living proof that you can do that. You can start with a Hobo Fort and packing blankets. You can start with a cheaper USB mic. You can start that way. Okay, you can start and still grind it out and build a business that you can retire from your job and go full time. And I'm telling you that with 100% confidence because I did it. I literally did it. And this podcast, it's so funny. I think another thing that was really cool that I did, and I recommend everybody do this in one way or another, whether you journal or whatever. But this podcast has been the document of my accomplishment. Do you know what I mean? Like it's documented my accomplishment. If you talk about us, documenting our lives and the things that have happened, I think this podcast, I don't make money from this podcast, meaning like I don't have sponsors. I've never looked for sponsors. This is the one place, in all fairness to all my other things, this is the purest form of who I am. and is this podcast, because I've never wanted to turn this podcast into something that, was the only purpose was to make money. Now, don't get me wrong. I will promote something I'm doing, but I don't get sponsors. I've never searched them out, because to me, this podcast has always been about the journey and documenting the journey and me relaying information to you. I have a YouTube channel. I have social network. I have blogs. I have courses. I've got voiceover clients. I'm doing just fine. I don't need more money. Okay. But this podcast was a way for me to talk about what was going on and about the things that was happening. Because at the time, if you go back and listen to the first episode, you'll see how the difference between now and then, and even with the way I talk, okay, it's so different because I was so paranoid. I didn't know what to say. Also, probably because it was super late. Although now it's 1:17 a.m. in the morning. If you notice, I've been staying up late again. A lot of that has to do with me trying to pump out more work, more stuff. But anyways, the thing is that, I did this podcast because I saw that there was nothing out there where people were actually chronicling their journey. And so many of us had nowhere to turn but to people who were kind of, in all fairness, and I say this with love, but were kind of out of touch with what was actually happening on the ground, if you will. You know what I mean? Like, and this is the God honest truth, and I'm not upset about it. But I've never been hired by Blizzard. I've never been hired. I've never. Now as I've gone along, I have been hired now by, that's so true. I've been hired by, like BMW, and so I have been hired to do commercials like that. But these commercials, a lot of them honestly have been spec commercials for, marketing companies that work for these businesses, you know what I mean? And things like where maybe I have done the voice for something, but I might have actually done the filler voice, or who, you know what I mean? Like I've never been on, some major campaign where I've been flown out to LA or New York or, to London. I've not done any of that. In fact, I've never even recorded anything out of my own personal studios. I've never been to a professional studio outside of my house. And yet I make I make triple now what I made as a teacher. Triple. I make over 6, and I'm not telling you to brag. I'm telling you that I want you to please know that you can do it. You can. You really can do it no matter where you start. Now, mind you, I didn't stay there. Okay, I don't have the Hobo Ford anymore, and I don't have the $40 mic. And would I recommend you start without that stuff? Well, if you could afford it, sure. Go ahead and start without using that. But if you can't afford it, don't wait to start. Right? Don't wait to start. Just do it. Just go for it. And don't listen to people who tell you can't succeed because you don't have this, or you can't succeed because you don't have that. I don't know about you, but nothing drives me more than when someone tells me I can't succeed, or I can't do this or that because I'm not good enough, or I don't have enough stuff, or I'm doing it wrong. Right? It's almost like that's fire underneath my belly. It makes me want to work even harder. And hopefully it does for you too. Because in the end, hell, prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. That doesn't mean we're mad at them. Doesn't mean we don't like them. Doesn't mean we treat people poorly who tell us, we're not good enough or we can't make it. We just show them that we can make it. And then when we are at the top, we help them make it. That is a heck of a legacy to leave behind. And it feels really good to say to yourself and look in the mirror and say, you know what? I did it. I did it. I did it even though people told me I couldn't. And I can tell you this, there is pride there that if you don't have it yet, I promise you, when you build something that works and you stick through it and you grind it out and you almost fall asleep while you're talking, I've been there. I've done it. I've spent money on just the wrong stuff. I've made so many mistakes. But at the same time, this business, this challenge, this journey has been amazing, and it will continue to be amazing. I have never in my entire life until this moment in time, until this business, I've never said I'm going to do this until the day I die. At this point, I say with absolute confidence, I want to do this until the day I die. Because I love it. I love talking to you. I love communicating. I love doing voiceover. I love the possibilities and the changes and the challenges. So I know I'm going down another rabbit hole and I'm on a pedestal preaching to you, and I know this one's long, but I felt that it was important to let you know that you can do anything you set your mind to. You can, okay? And don't listen to people, or listen to them and do it in spite of them. Because I promise you, those people will shove you down. They will shove you down. And then they'll be the last ones to praise you. Okay? But let them fuel your fire. Let them fuel your ambition, your desire to succeed. Let that fuel you. It does me. It does me. It does it for me. All right? And everybody, I want to thank you again for listening to this rage or this I don't know, this just huge speech-orama I gave you. But thank you so much. You all have a great night. If you get a chance, I would be so blessed if you left a review over on iTunes or Spotify. I don't know. I don't even know if you can leave a review on Spotify. I think you can, but I know you can on iTunes. And so many of you have left so much amazing reviews. I appreciate it. I just want more people to be able to find this, more voice actors, so they can know that they're not alone in starting their journey and going through this process, and that they can succeed too. And even if you're not starting, we all go through challenges and tough times, and you can succeed in this new world we live in. All right. This is Tony Robbins. I feel like this is Tony Robbins signing off. All right. It's like you're selling yourself. All right. I don't know why I have so much fun. I mean, I'm by myself in a booth, just laughing away. No wonder I've gone loco. I've gone crazy. Good night, everybody. All right. Goodbye. Peace.